There is a paradox that unsettles the heart and confuses the mind, a contradiction that feels almost cruel in its silence. A man who loves you deeply does not always move closer. Sometimes he steps back. Sometimes he creates space where intimacy seems natural. This distance is not born of indifference, nor of fear of you, but of a single, powerful trait rooted deep within his inner world. This trait is an intense sense of responsibility toward his own inner life. Such a man experiences love not as a fleeting emotion, but as a force that awakens the deepest layers of his psyche. Love, for him, is not light entertainment. It is an encounter with something vast and transformative. When he loves you, you become a mirror that reflects parts of himself he has long kept hidden, unresolved or unfinished. This is not comfortable. It is profound. And because it is profound, it demands caution. He senses that if he moves too quickly, too openly, he may contaminate the connection with his unexamined shadows. He knows that love exposes what lies beneath the surface: old wounds, unspoken fears, inherited patterns, unresolved conflicts. His distance is not rejection. It is containment. He steps back because he refuses to offer you a version of himself that he has not yet understood. This man does not run from emotion, but he respects its power. He knows that genuine love has the ability to dismantle the false self he has carefully constructed to survive the world. And while many people cling to their masks, he feels compelled to remove his. Yet removing a mask is dangerous when one has not fully faced what lies underneath. His distance is a form of protection, not only for himself, but for you. He understands, perhaps unconsciously, that unconscious love can become possession, projection, or dependency. He refuses to turn you into a solution for his inner emptiness. He does not want to love you as a symbol, an escape, or a fantasy. He wants to love you as you truly are. And that requires him to first differentiate between who you are and what his psyche wants you to be. This trait makes him slow. It makes him appear hesitant. It makes his affection quieter than others. But within that quietness lives a depth that does not shout because it does not need to prove itself. He may observe you from a distance, not because he doubts your worth, but because he is studying his own reactions. He watches what awakens in him when you speak, when you are absent, when you are near. He is asking himself difficult questions. Am I seeing her, or am I projecting onto her? Am I drawn to her essence, or to what she awakens in my unresolved past? Can I meet her without asking her to carry my unfinished burdens? Most people rush toward love seeking completion. This man moves away to seek integration. He has learned, often through pain, that unintegrated love can destroy what it touches. He has seen how affection, when driven by unconscious needs, becomes control, jealousy, or emotional hunger, and he would rather endure the loneliness of distance than risk harming something sacred. His restraint may be misunderstood as coldness. His silence may be mistaken for lack of interest. But beneath that restraint lives a devotion that is patient, deliberate, and inwardly fierce. He is not withholding love. He is refining it. This trait also makes him deeply self-aware. He senses that true union is not the merging of two broken halves, but the meeting of two individuals who have faced their own depths. Until he feels grounded in his inner world, he will not step fully into yours. He believes that love should expand both people, not consume them. When he keeps his distance, he is listening to an inner voice that demands honesty. He refuses to promise what he cannot yet embody. He refuses to claim closeness before he is capable of sustaining it. His love is not impulsive. It is ethical. If he does move closer, it will not be because the longing overwhelmed him, but because clarity emerged. When he chooses you, it will be from wholeness rather than need. His presence will be steady, not dramatic. His commitment will be quiet, but unshakable. So if you encounter a man who loves you deeply yet keeps his distance, do not assume the absence of feeling. Sometimes the greatest intensity is held inward, where it is examined, tempered, and transformed. His distance is the space in which love matures, where instinct is refined into consciousness, and desire becomes devotion. This single trait, the devotion to inner responsibility, shapes every step he takes toward or away from you. And while it may feel painful to stand on the other side of his silence, it is within that silence that he is preparing himself to love without illusion, without harm, without abandoning. Either you or himself. A man who loves deeply keeps distance to protect both his and your emotional integrity And this truth is often misunderstood in the realm of human relationships. When we think of love, we often imagine closeness, constant presence, and physical or emotional proximity. We assume that the measure of affection is how much someone is near us, how frequently they reach out, or how visibly they express their feelings. But the reality of profound love is far subtler, far more complex than the surface gestures that society teaches us to value. Distance, in this context, is not absence or neglect. It is a conscious choice born out of respect for the sanctity of the bond and the fragility of the human psyche. This kind of love recognizes that closeness without readiness can be destructive. It understands that rushing into emotional intimacy before the necessary inner work is done can transform love from a source of nourishment into a source of confusion and pain. The man who loves deeply knows that human emotions are layered and complicated, and he understands that his own heart is not a simple instrument that can be shared without discernment. Every individual carries within them unresolved fears, past traumas, insecurities, and patterns that may influence how they interact with others. To step into intimacy prematurely is to risk projecting these unprocessed shadows onto the one he loves. He recognizes that the heart can be unintentionally cruel, not because it desires to harm, but because it acts from unawareness. In this light, distance becomes a protective mechanism. It is a buffer that ensures his love remains ethical, conscious, and genuine. By keeping a measured space, he allows himself the clarity to understand whether his feelings are pure affection or entangled with unhealed wounds from the past. He is aware that love entangled with unresolved emotional patterns can suffocate, manipulate, or burden the other person, turning what should be a source of mutual growth into a dynamic of dependence or control. This distance is also a reflection of his understanding that love is not ownership. Many people confuse affection with possession, believing that being close constantly is proof of care. But for a man who loves deeply, love is a sacred space, not a tool of control. By stepping back, he demonstrates respect for your autonomy, recognizing that emotional freedom is a necessary component of any authentic relationship. He knows that by imposing himself physically or emotionally, he might unintentionally limit your own growth or create expectations that are not sustainable. The distance he maintains is a silent affirmation that your individuality is as important as his devotion. He is careful not to demand emotional labor that you are not ready to give, and he avoids filling voids in your life with temporary gestures that may later prove inadequate. Furthermore, distance allows him to cultivate patience, both within himself and within the relationship. Love, in its truest form, is not instantaneous or fleeting. It is an unfolding process that requires time, reflection, and observation. By maintaining a gentle space, he learns to observe his own emotions without reacting impulsively. He watches the ebb and flow of desire, the intensity of attachment, and the ways in which he responds to vulnerability. This observation is not passive, it is active, deliberate, and necessary. In doing so, he prepares himself to enter the relationship with full presence, with the ability to offer support, understanding, and stability rather than need, dependency, or projection. He recognizes that the quality of his love is dependent on the quality of his inner life, and until he has cultivated that inner life, he chooses restraint over recklessness. Distance also serves to protect the emotional integrity of the person he loves. He understands that intimacy can be overwhelming when one party is not fully prepared to receive or handle the depth of feeling being offered. Love can be a mirror that reveals both beauty and imperfection, light and shadow, and not everyone is ready to confront what emerges. By keeping a careful distance, he ensures that he does not impose his inner storms onto the other person, allowing them the space to experience the relationship on their own terms. He is mindful of the timing and readiness of both hearts, recognizing that forcing closeness prematurely can fracture trust or create misunderstandings that may linger for years. His restraint is a testament to the depth of his care, for he understands that true love is protective and nurturing, not possessive or intrusive. Another dimension of this distance is the cultivation of self-awareness. He uses the space not as avoidance but as a tool for reflection and self-examination. He questions his motives, observes his emotional triggers, and evaluates whether his desire to be close is driven by genuine affection or unconscious need. This introspection ensures that when he eventually steps closer, it is with clarity and integrity. He does not want to engage in a relationship out of fear of being alone, a need for validation, or the desire to fill emptiness. He wants his love to be a conscious offering grounded in understanding and free from the distortions of unexamined patterns. The distance he maintains is a silent preparation, a refining process that transforms raw emotion into mature, conscious love. Additionally, this space nurtures resilience in both parties. Relationships are not merely about shared moments of joy, they are also about the capacity to navigate challenges, to withstand uncertainty, and to grow together through complexity. By holding space, he fosters a dynamic where love is not dependent on constant reassurance, immediate gratification, or superficial closeness. He demonstrates that deep connection is not measured by proximity but by the strength, clarity, and presence that each individual brings into the relationship. The distance he maintains is a lesson in patience, trust, and the understanding that love, like life itself, is a gradual unfolding rather than a sudden rush. The man who loves deeply also understands the delicate balance between desire and discipline. His affection is real, potent, and often intense. Yet he exercises restraint to prevent desire from overshadowing wisdom. This restraint is not a denial of emotion but a conscious management of it, ensuring that love remains constructive rather than destructive. He knows that unchecked passion can become a source of volatility, creating turbulence in both hearts. By holding himself back, he channels his feelings through reflection and care, transforming the raw force of emotion into a stable, enduring presence that can support rather than destabilize. In essence, the distance he keeps is a manifestation of his respect for the sacredness of love. It is an acknowledgement that true affection is not about constant presence, dramatic gestures, or immediate gratification. It is about integrity, responsibility, and the capacity to love in a way that honors both hearts. He understands that love is both a mirror and a teacher, revealing hidden truths and demanding reflection. By keeping distance, he allows the love to breathe, to mature, and to emerge fully conscious rather than fragmented, impulsive, or dependent. His restraint comes from a profound sense of responsibility toward his own inner growth, and this responsibility shapes every action, every pause, and every decision he makes in love. To understand this, one must recognize that human beings are not simply collections of desires and impulses. We are complex networks of emotions, memories, instincts, and unresolved patterns. When a man loves deeply, he does not approach affection lightly or without consideration. Love, for him, is not a mere pleasure to be enjoyed. It is a force that can awaken the deepest layers of consciousness, and with awakening comes responsibility. He understands that his feelings have consequences, not only for himself but for the one he loves, and he cannot offer what he does not yet possess within himself. This is the essence of restraint, the awareness that moving too quickly or carelessly can transform love into chaos rather than nourishment. The sense of responsibility toward inner growth is not an abstract concept. For him, it is a lived experience that permeates his daily life. He is constantly observing his thoughts, questioning his motives, and examining the patterns that govern his emotions. Every desire, every attachment, every surge of affection is measured against the standard of authenticity and integrity. He asks himself whether his love is grounded in clarity or in projection, whether he is drawn to the other person's essence, or to what she awakens in his own unresolved past. This self-inquiry is demanding and uncomfortable, but he accepts it because he understands that unexamined love can become a source of harm. It can manifest as control, dependency, jealousy, or manipulation, often without conscious intent. By cultivating inner growth, he seeks to transform raw emotion into conscious love, a love that is deliberate, nurturing, and capable of sustaining both hearts without distortion. This responsibility also manifests in the way he navigates intimacy. He is aware that true closeness is not a right to be claimed, but a space to be entered with care. Emotional proximity is not a simple act of being present. It is a complex negotiation of boundaries, timing, and readiness. He keeps distance not because he doubts his feelings or the worth of the person he loves, but because he respects the power of intimacy to both heal and wound. He understands that rushing into closeness without preparation can impose his inner turbulence onto another, creating patterns of dependency or misunderstanding that may last a lifetime. In maintaining space, he exercises ethical love, ensuring that his presence will be constructive rather than burdensome, supportive rather than intrusive. The responsibility toward inner growth also involves a commitment to patience. He understands that transformation, self-awareness, and emotional maturity cannot be achieved overnight. The journey of personal development is slow, often painful, and requires constant reflection. By keeping distance, he gives himself the time to cultivate stability, resilience, and insight. He observes his reactions, identifies recurring patterns, and confronts the shadows that emerge within him. This process is rigorous and sometimes isolating, yet it is necessary for him to enter a relationship from a position of wholeness rather than incompleteness. He understands that love offered from a place of lack is not truly love, it is a plea for fulfillment, a projection of needs, and often a source of pain for both parties. Furthermore, his restraint is informed by a deep understanding of the nature of human connection. He recognizes that love is not merely a union of desires but an encounter between two complete individuals, each carrying their own history, wounds, and potentials. To engage meaningfully, he must first integrate his own experiences, reconcile contradictions within himself, and achieve a measure of emotional stability. He sees that relationships cannot function as substitutes for inner work. They amplify what is already present. By taking responsibility for his growth, he ensures that the love he offers will enhance the other's life rather than complicate it. This sense of responsibility is also connected to an awareness of timing. He understands that love is not simply a matter of intensity or longing. It is a dynamic process that unfolds according to readiness and alignment. He watches his emotions, monitors the evolution of his feelings, and calibrates his approach to ensure that his actions are appropriate and considerate. He does not allow impulse or desire to dictate his behavior. Instead, he seeks to act in a way that honors the integrity of the relationship. This measured approach may be misunderstood as hesitation or detachment, but it is a deliberate strategy rooted in care and foresight. He values quality over quantity, depth over immediacy, and ethical engagement over transient satisfaction. His restraint is further informed by the understanding that love is a mirror. It reflects both light and shadow, beauty and imperfection, awareness and blind spots. When he loves, he is confronted not only with the other person's essence, but also with the parts of himself that remain unhealed. He recognizes that without conscious effort, these unhealed parts can distort perception, create illusions, or generate unintended harm. By holding distance, he allows himself to observe these reflections without being consumed by them. He learns to distinguish between genuine desire and projection, between authentic connection and the yearning to fill inner voids. This practice of discernment is central to his sense of responsibility, ensuring that the love he offers is conscious and transformative rather than reactive or compulsive. Distance, in this context, is also an act of respect for the other person. He does not seek to control, pressure, or overwhelm. He seeks to honor autonomy and freedom. He understands that each person's growth is independent, and that love cannot thrive under coercion or expectation. By maintaining space, he allows the other person to be fully present in her own life, free from the weight of his unresolved patterns or intense longing. This restraint creates a dynamic where love can exist without suffocation, where connection is chosen and sustained rather than imposed or demanded. The man who embodies this sense of responsibility toward inner growth also cultivates emotional resilience. He accepts that love involves vulnerability, uncertainty, and the potential for disappointment. Rather than avoiding these challenges, he uses them as opportunities for reflection and self-mastery. He practices patience, self-control, and mindfulness, understanding that the qualities are essential for sustaining a mature, conscious relationship. He knows that true love is tested not by passion alone, but by the ability to remain grounded, ethical, and aware in the face of difficulty. This inner responsibility transforms his love into a force that is deliberate, patient, and conscious. It is not impulsive, reactive, or self-serving. He does not act to satisfy immediate desire or to escape loneliness. Instead, he cultivates the capacity to love fully while remaining rooted in self-awareness. The space he maintains, the restraint he exercises, and the reflection he practices are all expressions of this profound commitment to inner growth. Distance allows him to differentiate between projection and genuine connection, and this discernment is one of the most important yet least understood aspects of deep love. Human beings are naturally inclined to project their inner world onto others. We see in those we love not only who they are, but also what we wish them to be, what we fear them to be, or what they reflect back from our own unresolved inner conflict. A man who loves deeply is acutely aware of this tendency, both in himself and in human nature at large. He understands that without careful observation and reflection, love can become a labyrinth of illusions, desires, and unmet expectations. By keeping distance, he allows himself the mental and emotional space to observe what is real and what is imagined, what is authentic and what is projection. This distance is not withdrawal but a necessary act of clarity, a way to ensure that the connection he forms is grounded in reality rather than the shifting sands of fantasy or unresolved need. When a man loves deeply, he recognizes that his own psyche contains layers that are easily misread, misunderstood, or unacknowledged. Emotions rise like currents beneath the surface, carrying memories, fears, desires, and habitual reactions. If he were to engage too closely without observation, these currents could cloud perception, causing him to mistake his own inner yearnings for qualities present in the other person. He might see perfection where there is imperfection, connection where there is superficial similarity, or destiny where there is mere coincidence. By maintaining a thoughtful distance, he grants himself the ability to witness these inner processes, to untangle the threads of projection from the fabric of reality. He can ask himself hard questions. Am I drawn to her essence or to the reflection of my own needs? Do I love her for who she truly is, or for what she awakens within me? Am I ready to meet her without requiring her to carry the weight of my past or my fears? This capacity for discernment is crucial because relationships formed on projection rarely survive the passage of time. When love is projected, it is fragile and conditional, dependent on the other person fulfilling an imagined role rather than existing authentically. The man who keeps his distance understands that it is far more valuable to form a connection rooted in truth, however complex or imperfect, than to pursue an illusion that might collapse under the weight of reality. Distance gives him the perspective necessary to observe without interference, to recognize the difference between genuine alignment and temporary attraction, between authentic compatibility and transient excitement. Moreover, distance allows him to observe his emotional responses with honesty and clarity. He notices how he reacts when the other person is absent, when she speaks, or when she acts in ways that do not align with his desires. These reactions reveal not only his feelings toward her but also the unresolved elements within himself. Without this reflective space, he risks acting from unresolved emotion, turning love into a vehicle for unconscious needs rather than a space of mutual respect and growth. He may discover feelings of jealousy, insecurity, or impatience that are not truly about the other person but about parts of himself he has yet to integrate. By differentiating between projection and authentic response, he cultivates a love that is conscious, ethical, and capable of sustaining depth over time. Distance also allows him to evaluate the other person's authenticity. He observes not only what is presented openly but also what emerges in subtle interaction, in moments of vulnerability, and in the ways she navigates her own life. He watches for alignment between words and actions, intention and behavior, and the congruence between her inner world and outward expression. This is not judgment in a critical sense, but discernment born of care and respect. He seeks to understand her essence, her patterns, and the depth of her presence, recognizing that true connection cannot exist without this understanding. Proximity too soon can obscure these subtleties, creating a false sense of intimacy that does not reflect reality. Additionally, the space he maintains serves as a mirror for both parties, revealing unconscious tendencies that might otherwise remain hidden. In distance, he can see how attachment, longing, and desire influence his perception. He can observe whether his admiration is unconditional or dependent on specific qualities, whether his attraction is to who she is, or to the idea of who she could be in relation to him. This reflection allows him to act with intentionality rather than impulse, ensuring that when he chooses to engage more closely, it is with awareness and integrity. He avoids the pitfalls of rushing into closeness that can lead to misunderstanding, unmet expectations, or emotional entanglement that obscures reality. The differentiation between projection and genuine connection is also an act of responsibility toward the other person. He understands that entering a relationship based on projection is not only unfair to himself but potentially harmful to her. When one projects unresolved desires or fears onto another, it can create pressure, expectation, or subtle manipulation that the other person may not even recognize. By holding back, by maintaining distance, he ensures that the connection he nurtures is free from unconscious imposition. He wants to love her for who she truly is, not for the role she plays in his inner narrative. His patience, therefore, is a gift of authenticity, allowing her the space to exist fully without the weight of his projections shaping her behavior or identity. This distance is also a space for self-integration. He uses the time apart to reconcile conflicting emotions, examine unresolved patterns, and understand his own capacity for presence, empathy, and resilience. He recognizes that the clearer he is about his own motivations, feelings, the more capable he is of forming a genuine connection. In other words, distance is not avoidance, it is preparation, a process of strengthening the emotional and psychological foundation from which true intimacy can emerge. It is an acknowledgement that love cannot flourish in chaos or confusion, and that clarity within oneself is a prerequisite for clarity in connection. By differentiating projection from authentic connection, he cultivates a love that is conscious rather than reactive. He does not chase attachment or succumb to fleeting desire. He engages with intention, awareness, and discernment. The love he develops is grounded in reality, enriched by understanding, and capable of withstanding the trials and complexities of life together. It is a love that honors both hearts, free from distortion and expectation, and capable of deepening over time because it is rooted in truth. Distance, therefore, is a necessary aspect of this process. It is not a withdrawal from love, but an engagement with it at a deeper level. It allows observation, reflection, discernment, and the cultivation of clarity. By maintaining space, he ensures that the connection he forms is authentic, conscious, and sustainable, differentiating between what is projected from within himself and what truly exists in the other person. It is a quiet, deliberate, and often misunderstood form of devotion, one that prepares the ground for a love that is profound, resilient, and real. True love, for him, emerges only from self-awareness and inner wholeness, and this principle governs every aspect of his approach to relationships. To understand this, one must first recognize that love is not merely an external expression, a series of gestures, or a collection of shared experiences. True love is a meeting of conscious beings, a convergence of individuals who have undertaken the often arduous journey of self-discovery and integration. A man who loves deeply does not enter into a relationship merely to satisfy desire, alleviate loneliness, or complete a sense of lack. He recognizes that without a foundation of self-awareness, love becomes a reflection of unconscious needs, a projection of inner emptiness onto another, and a fragile, unstable bond. The pursuit of inner wholeness, therefore, is not a luxury or an abstract ideal for him. It is a prerequisite for genuine connection. Self-awareness, in this context, is an ongoing practice of observation, reflection, and honesty. He examines his thoughts, emotions, and patterns without judgment, seeking to understand the roots of his desires, fears, and impulses. He asks himself difficult questions. What motivates my longing for closeness? Which aspects of my past continue to influence my present relationships? How do my unresolved wounds affect my capacity to love authentically? This process is neither easy nor comfortable, for it requires confronting truths that many prefer to avoid. Yet he embraces it because he understands that clarity about oneself is the only way to engage in love without distortion. Through self-awareness, he cultivates discernment, empathy, patience, and the capacity to offer love without demanding that the other person fill gaps within him. Inner wholeness complements self-awareness by addressing the deeper integration of his psyche. Wholeness is the recognition and acceptance of all parts of oneself, the light and the shadow, the strengths and vulnerabilities, the conscious and unconscious dimensions of being. A man who seeks wholeness understands that love offered from a fragmented self is inherently unstable. If he carries unresolved conflicts, suppressed emotions, or unacknowledged needs, these elements can unconsciously shape his interactions, leading to miscommunication, projection, or emotional turbulence. By working toward wholeness, he aligns his inner world with his outward action, creating consistency, reliability, and integrity in his relationships. This alignment allows him to approach love not as a reactive force, but as a conscious, deliberate, and sustaining presence. The emergence of love from self-awareness and wholeness also explains his need for distance. He knows that intimacy requires clarity, and clarity cannot coexist with unexamined emotional impulses. Distance provides the space to observe, reflect, and integrate experiences before engaging fully with another person. It is not avoidance but preparation, a way to ensure that when he does move closer, he does so from a grounded, conscious place rather than from need, habit, or projection. By maintaining space, he safeguards the potential for a love that is stable, enduring, and capable of deep mutual growth. He understands that rushing into intimacy without readiness risks repeat patterns of dysfunction, misunderstanding, or unconscious dependence. Self-awareness and wholeness also allow him to recognize the distinction between authentic love and attachment born incompleteness. Many people confuse desire, infatuation, or dependency with genuine affection, but he understands that these forces, while intense, are often transient and reactive. True love requires stability, ethical engagement, and the ability to act from insight rather than impulse. By cultivating his inner world, he develops the capacity to love without losing himself, to give without demanding, and to engage without projection. He knows that love is not a solution for personal voids but a shared experience that flourishes when both individuals approach it from fullness rather than need. The process of achieving self-awareness and wholeness is neither linear nor effortless. It involves facing discomfort, confronting past wounds, and accepting the parts of oneself that are often hidden or denied. He learns to recognize patterns of fear, insecurity, and defensiveness that may surface in relationship, and to address them consciously rather than unconsciously imposing them on the one he loves. He cultivates emotional resilience, understanding that the capacity to remain grounded, empathetic, and reflective in the face of challenge is essential for sustaining a mature, conscious relationship. This ongoing work transforms his love into a presence that is steady, deliberate, and capable of supporting another without distortion. Inner wholeness also informs his respect for the other person's individuality and autonomy. He understands that true love is not about merging or consuming, but about meeting another conscious being with clarity and empathy. By cultivating his own wholeness, he ensures that he does not seek to fill gaps in the other person or expect them to complete him. He approaches the relationship as an offering rather than a demand, a partnership of two autonomous, conscious individuals who choose to share their lives without losing themselves in the process. This perspective fosters patience, tolerance, and an ethical approach to love, one that values freedom, authenticity, and mutual respect over attachment, control, or possessiveness. Furthermore, self-awareness and wholeness allow him to navigate desire with discernment. He experiences attraction, longing, and emotional intensity without being consumed by them. He can observe his impulses, reflect on their origins, and decide how to act in alignment with his values and intentions. This capacity transforms love from a reactive experience into a conscious engagement, one where passion is integrated with clarity, and emotional intensity is balanced by ethical consideration. Distance, in this sense, is both a protective and preparatory measure, ensuring that when he engages, he does so with insight and integrity. The cultivation of self-awareness and wholeness also enables him to embrace patience in love. He recognizes that meaningful connection cannot be rushed or forced. It unfolds according to readiness, alignment, and mutual presence. By maintaining a measured space, he allows both himself and the other person the opportunity to develop clarity, understanding, and emotional resilience. This patience is not passive waiting but active preparation, a way to ensure that the love he offers is not fleeting or superficial but grounded in consciousness, depth, and ethical engagement. Ultimately, true love, emerging from self-awareness and inner wholeness, is deliberate, conscious, and sustaining. It is not impulsive, reactive, or dependent on external validation. It is capable of withstanding the complexities, uncertainties, and challenges of life because it is rooted in clarity and integrity. A man who loves in this way does not seek to control, consume, or possess. He seeks to offer a presence that is steady, nurturing, and reflective, a love that honors both hearts without diminishing either. Distance, restraint, patience, and discernment are all expressions of this commitment, serving as the groundwork for a connection that is authentic, resilient, and capable of deep mutual transformation.